Women have the power to transform this world. We can end crime and violence if we all agree to do one thing: share. Let's share our wisdom, share our time, share our talents, share our finances, but most of all, let's share our love. This is the Female Solution.
Good evening, and welcome to the On-Air Daily News Hour. I'm Naimah, and we are going to share with you some of the news happening in and around your neck of the woods, and also give you some insight from some of our columnists as they take a look at progress. How do we know we're progressing? Sometimes you can hear reports that terrify you and make you feel that we're going backwards. Well, there are some changes happening. And as a result of the people in political positions, there are policies that are changing. Now, we can address them from one or two ways. We can panic and feel like we're powerless, or we can seize the power that's in our own hands and decide how we're going to create. We can create the world that we want to live in if we just choose to. And it really isn't dependent upon anybody else's decisions. There's nothing stopping us from cooperating with each other to create whatever institutions we need. And there's nothing stopping us from circulating the money among ourselves to be able to finance whatever we create. There's nothing stopping us, except if we believe that someone has to give us permission first. And that's the crippling thought. So let's take a look at some of the on-air daily news columnists that have weighed in on this constant struggle for us to recognize the power that's already in our hands. On-air columnist Mama D states why reparations for crimes against the humanity of descendants of slaves is a no-no. Well, we've been talking about reparations and how those who were formerly enslaved will not be able to function unless they receive reparations. However, there are signs that people who have never received anything, including the promised 40 acres and a mule, after the enslavement experience had ended, there is evidence of a great resurgence of independent spirit that made it possible for people in our grandparents' time to create thriving institutions very successful communities that functioned without anyone's approval simply because the people believed in themselves. So in this column, Mama D, Evangel Mama D, Yanubian, on Air Daily News Columnist, says we've got to get the language right. Because so much of what we do has to do with our misidentification of ourselves as ex-slaves, when in fact, we are actually indigenous to this nation. Many Africans traveled to America centuries before the Europeans, and we're already here. So if we understand ourselves to be indigenous Native American Africans, or she calls INAAs, then we define ourselves differently than those who are depending on the benevolence of whites who had enslaved those whom they transported to America. But that is not the identity of all Black people, and it certainly is not synonymous with Blackness. Slave, ex-slave. So that mentality can be crippling. And Mama D says in her column that when we speak of reparations, that leaders have led indigenous Native American Africans, INAAs, astray. That's why they have not received reparations to make them whole from the crimes against their humanity and Jim Crow genocide, heart and mind damage caused by 88 years of segregation laws to keep the status of the indigenous Native American Africans down. It's caused serious harm to their children until May 17, 1954, when the U.S. Supreme Court Brown versus Board of Education decision ruled it unconstitutional. The impacted group, ages 76 to 84 years today, can finally answer the question, did they ever overcome the heart and mind damage? After 70 years, today's leaders are afraid to fight. They're in denial about the fear factor. They believe indigenous Native African Americans cannot do anything by themselves. So they leech on others. They leech onto others who use them to advance their issues, and they progress, and you regress. Like you have laws to keep the Negro status down. They get a governmental leg up and bilingual preferred policies that put their status up above the law. Now, if we look at the way indigenous Native American Africans are classified or classifying themselves as ex-slaves, that is psychological warfare in many cases, because our children are growing up with a sense of powerlessness that is not implanted in the minds and hearts of other children who might be immigrants from other nations, but are certainly not indoctrinated with the idea that their success and power depends on the benevolence of another group of people to give them human status. If you already know who you are, you don't care what other people call you. It's what you call yourself. So our declaring our indigenous status is a powerful psychological step in recognizing that whether we have a majority of us coming from Africa, or a majority who were born in America, or a very large portion of us who traveled to America and have been indigenous to this land for centuries, we cannot keep defining ourselves as the former property of other people, believing that until those people treat us as equals, we cannot be equal. Equality is a birthright. That's who you are as a being. And there is no one who can make you lesser than who you are as an expression of the divine. So knowing this changes our strategy when it comes to how we're going to address legal changes in the system. Because there's nothing keeping anyone from creating their own system. The Amish prove it every day. They're living right here. And they interact when it's time to do business. But when it comes to culture and education and laws, they make their own. And they have not asked permission to do so. And there are others who set the example of what it means to be a sovereign being and to know that's who you are and to not ask permission to be who you are and to not fear when someone appears to make a law that changes who they decide who you are, because they don't have the power to decide who you are unless you give them that power. So that's something to ponder as we look at a Supreme Court. And let's remember the Supreme Court is made up of people who die. And so every time someone dies, they get replaced. And yes, many of the kinds of people depend on the kinds of philosophies of the person who is currently the president. But every human being is going to leave this earth, and nothing they do is permanent. So why are we panicking? Let us plan rather than panic. And so we can choose how we want the world to go. Let's take a look at some more columns when we come back. You're watching the On-Air Daily News Hour, and I'm Naimah Latif. And today we have been pondering words shared with us by our columnist, Mama D, who is looking at identity and the impact of how we allow others to define us and how we define ourselves, and whether or not we're going to seize the power to define ourselves so that other people's opinions really don't matter. And that really is the question. Why do other people's opinions even matter? We'll be right back after this quick break, so we want you to stay with us as we greet our global family, joining us from all around the world. Stay with us.
We are global transformers, changing the world from the way it is to the way it should be. We are one. Wherever we live on this earth, we are one human family. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to extend a greeting to all the members of our family, whenever and wherever you may be listening around the world. To our family in China, Ni Hao. In India, Namaste. In Japan, Konnichiwa. In Korea, Annyeonghaseyo. In Russia, Здравствуйте. In Germany, Guten Tag. In Poland, Dzień dobry. In France, Bonjour. In Spain, Hola. In Italy, Ciao. In Egypt, Ahlan Wasalan. In Ghana, Akwaba. In Nigeria, Peleo. In South Africa, Sawubona. In Senegal, Nangadef. In Kenya, Jambo. In Israel, Shalom. In Pakistan, Afghanistan, Palestine, and Saudi Arabia, Assalamu alaikum. Greetings, and may peace be upon you all. Join us live on the on-air radio network called 727-731-5192. We want to talk to you.
Yes, we want to talk to you, and we want you to talk to us too, as we continue to take a look at the on-air daily news for Wednesday, and this is May 13th, and we are looking at some of the thoughts shared with our on-air daily news columnists, looking at the issue of progress and in whose hands is that progress? Are we really dependent upon the benevolence of those who identify as white and are believing that they have authority over other people? No one has authority unless you give it to them. No one has authority unless you give it to them. And if you don't give it to them, they don't have it. This is what it means to be sovereign. You are in charge of you and no one else. When you know that, then you act in accordance with that. So if we are defining ourselves as indigenous to this nation, not in need of someone else's declaration that we are free, but we are free because that is the state of being of those who are a part of the expression of creation. We are sovereign. And if we are considering ourselves as indigenous, Native American, Africans, then why are we needing someone's approval to create our own education system, have our own schools, teach what we believe our children need to learn, to empower them to create what they need to survive in this country with skills and abilities? Why do we even worry about other people's monetary system? Take an example from Ibrahim Traoré in Burkina Faso, understanding that if you agree with the nations with whom you trade on what is to be the symbol of trade, then other people's monetary system doesn't matter because you're the one that has the resources anyway. What do you need them for? So, in having figured that out, he is revolutionizing the minds of those in Africa who have been shaped by colonial control, to the point where they forgot that if the wealth comes from their country, why do they need anybody else to do anything? Simply begin to train your people yourself. And that's what all of us have the power to do. So columnist Mama D speaks of getting the language right. And when you define yourself appropriately, not anyone's slave or ex-slave or former slave or simply a person who has been forced into servitude. When that is no longer the identity in your mind, then that's not a thing to be overcome because other people don't have the power to define you. And this is why it's so necessary that we have free minds. Well, let's take a look at one of the other columnists in the on-air daily news that speaks on the issue of education. Get your kids out of the government indoctrination centers, otherwise known as public schools. And Ron Chisholm, the publisher of Ron's newsletter,
Minister Robert Floyd Plump,
speaks about that. So we've got a caller
Minister
on the
Robert
line.
Floyd Plump.
We've got a caller on the line joining us. And as we take a look at the columns in the on-air daily news addressing the power that we have to educate our own children if we choose that power. So one of the things that Ron has said in this column was giving us an understanding that he and his associates in the organization that they formed decided to just go ahead and start a school. And his friend Shango came up with the idea of asking professionals to serve as voluntary, non-paid board of directors to guide them on their quest. And one of the things that they'd chosen to do was to learn the state of Illinois.
Minister Robert Floyd Plump.
Ah, yes, Minister Plump. Hold just one moment as we take a look at what they chose to do. They chose to learn the state of Illinois laws on opening up and maintaining a preschool. They wanted to find a place, storefront or some building to house the preschool, learn Chicago's building codes, and make sure that the place was in line with Chicago's building codes, and find desks and other equipment for the school, especially as demanded by whatever teacher that was secured, and figure out how to pay the teacher's salary. And as they took a look at finding a way to create this school, he speaks of the fact that these young people, college students, had merely chosen to take control. They chose, and that was it. So this is what it comes down to when we choose. When we choose to create what we need, we don't ask permission, we just do it. So let's go to our live line here at 727-731-5192, because we want to talk to you and we want you to talk to us too. And we're taking a look at progress and the power that we have in our hands to create what we need. So why are we panicking when it appears that laws are changing to take away whatever privileges we believe are necessary for our progress? Why are we believing that our well-being is in the hands of other people and determined by their benevolence? Why are we believing that? So let's go to our line. I believe we've got Minister Robert Floyd Plump on the line. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. How are you?
Oh, I am fantastically blessed and all about success breeds success. Remember freedom schools?
Yes, yes, freedom
Yeah,
schools.
that's what we have. Yeah, that's what we have to do, which we are continuing, as they say, the Poor People's Campaign that was created by Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and a reflection of him in keeping hope alive. And I am somebody.
Yes.
How you doing, beloved?
Oh, fantastic.
Yes, by Reverend Dr. Jesse Lewis Jackson. We have come up with a freedom school of promoting peace, love, unity media programs for the young people. Matter of fact, it's not even just for the young people, it's for all people. Like in a diversified way, which is also success breeds success, under the umbrella of the People's March and the Harold Washington Foundation, in a reflection of grassroots organization.org for more information. And brothers and sisters can reach yours truly at 312-882-5935. So we can get rid of the jive. It's a lot of jive out here, beloved sister Naimah Latif. And the jive is what, we can be encountered with. We had the Harold Washington Peace Caravan Parade Saturday, and it was more orchestrated and encouraged by Inglewood.
Well, that's good.
Yes, and it was a success.
Well, that's the important thing. And well, let me ask you a bit about that, because we now have a generation coming up that is not as aware of Mayor Harold Washington because they were born after he transitioned in 1987. So anyone born after that time, he's just a name in a history book. What do you want people to remember about him as you honor him each year with this parade? What do you want the generation that grew up after his time to know and remember about him?
Thank you. This is very important and a very good question. It's what Harold wanted people to remember him by, as a fair and a free and an open government for all the people, which is very important. Chicago, and he made it possible and initiated the sanctuary cities.
Yes, he did.
Was referred to as all people would have an opportunity to come here and to promote what we call freedom, justice, equality, economics, and unity in the community. Something else that he said was that we must pluck the whole community. And then I like to think of, the roots of even me, myself and I, and being ordained by one of the world's greatest pastors, Pastor Marion Earl Thornton. Do you remember him?
Yes, as a matter of fact, he has had quite an impact. And as we take a look at independence, he created a lot of things that a lot of people are not aware of. He initiated a lot of things.
You see, I gotta go back to the roots of my, reflections of getting into the ministry in a more positive, progressive, and a professional way. Although I had pre-experience with Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., and I'm glad that I had that pre-experience, and then I come here to Chicago, and I got that, when I went to the March on Washington back in 1963. But I'm still thankful, even more than that, from the roots of Emmett Till, which also, Mama D. Love made it possible for us to have Emmett Till Road. And also, she was ordained by Pastor Marion Earl Sorton, and he introduced me to Reverend Dr. Webb Evans, but yet, that's a very famous name too. Not only Dr. Webb Evans, but when I think about the godfather that taught Reverend Dr. Jesse Lewis Jackson, Dr. Clay Evans, a fellowship missionary Baptist church in Chicago. We went through a whole lot of history that, as far as I'm concerned, society have forgotten, but I'm just so glad that, they're in my head. So to me, some people say that they are dead, but I say that they are alive because we say, we don't die, we multiply.
Yes, we do. Well, Minister Plump, I want you to hold on a second. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back, and we'll talk more about some of the impact of many of these historical figures that the present generation does not know, and the power that we have to do the things that we can do if we would just seize the power to do it. So we'll be right back after this quick break.
Right.
Yes.
Absolutely correct.
So,
exact.
Yes. So hold that thought, and we'll come back to you with more historical insight in just one moment. So stay with us. And
yes, ma'am.
You. Yes, sir. And you are watching the on-air daily news hour on the Female Solution this evening. And we've got a caller on the live line we'll come back to after this quick break. So we invite you all to stick and stay. Don't stray away. We'll be back in just one moment. So just stay with us.
In which we're doing this documentary for Douglas Robinson, Your Death Will Not Be in Vain.
He was a heck of a great dude. And I love Doug. Doug loved me.
Just being around him, he had a good spirit. He was a healing person.
They are there.
Get SROs back.
When you give to the poor,
should not be forced out of their neighborhoods when it goes through a period of transformation.
There are too many people who are losing their homes to taxes because they can't pay a $1,000 tax bill.
Yes, and you can join Zelda Robinson every Monday for Monday Morning Mindfulness and get updates on the Higher Learning Network TV show and its ongoing efforts to serve those who are unhoused. You can contribute and, of course, tune into her show every Monday morning. And not only do you get some stress relief, you learn how to be mindful of those who are depending on your support for their survival. We are our brother's keeper. Yes, we are. So welcome back to the On-Air Daily News Hour. I'm Naimah Latif, and we are looking at the columnists who keep us informed and keep us abreast and keep us inspired. And here we see our own Evangel Mama D Love, and she was there with Kamala Harris at the last Mayor's Interfaith Breakfast, in which many leaders had to be reminded of the power that's in our hands. There's nothing stopping us from registering to vote, and there's nothing stopping us as we're voting from spending our money with each other so that we can build our institutions. So economics and politics go hand in hand, but first and foremost, the economics that we control, we must use to empower ourselves politically, and vice versa. But even if other people are not cooperating and sharing what they have, we can always share what we have, and we always have the power to create what we need. So one of the things that Mama D says in her column on Kamala Harris's address of the Mayor's Interfaith Breakfast, in which Mayor Brandon Johnson presented the Champion of Freedom Award to Mrs. Jacqueline Jackson, the wife of Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson. She gives us an insight on some of the things that former Vice President Kamala Harris said. And many of us are hoping that she may run again for president. But one of the things she said, as you said, you were part of the future and being blessed because your days are long on the land that the Lord your God has given you. Makes you part of the past, but you live in the present, and a gift is needed in times like these. So she also says social influencers are taking control of our children and our lives. She's calling the civil rights movement and many of the people calling the civil rights movement reverse segregation are, of course, creating laws that some people are becoming fearful about, because what happens if people choose to create laws that are not in favor of sharing? Well, what's keeping us from sharing among ourselves? Absolutely nothing. If people don't want to admit people in their institutions, what's keeping us from creating our own? Absolutely nothing. So that is why we need to stop identifying ourselves as needing permission or striving to get somebody to respect us. Why are we caring how people act? The only respect you need is your own for yourself. If you know who you are, it doesn't matter if someone's nasty. They have no power over you unless you give it to them. So Minister Plump, our live caller here, and definitely a historian in keeping in the forefront the very powerful voice of the past Chicago Mayor Harold Washington, has been reminding us of all of the things that we enjoyed when we realized we had the power to choose leadership by simply making an effort, going to vote. And we were very creative in promoting it. Everybody remembers the Come Alive October 5 campaign that was financed by Softsheen, Ed Gardner, and him putting money behind a slogan and a jingle and music and made it popular to go and vote. We know how we do things. You put music to something, you can get us to do whatever we need to do. So we put that together, and there you go, you got a mayor. So Minister Plump, what do you suggest that we do today using that same formula? If we want to elect a president, if we want to elect a vice president, if we want to elect a governor, if we want to build a school, if we want to build a hospital, if we want to do anything, you say you've got Plump Music Productions and you all go about producing music. How do you see getting our artists on board with an empowerment agenda so that the lyrics that they create and the sounds they produce are motivating people to empower themselves and act in a way that shows we don't need anybody's approval. We have the power in our own hands. How do you get other artists to sign on to that philosophy so that everybody can be on one accord?
Well, thank you. Hallelujah. Yes, the most important part is what you just said, which is we have the power within us to do. And it must be in your heart, your mind, your body, your spirit, and your soul in the form of unity in the whole community. And that's what Mayor Harold Lee Washington did, that I would say stick and stay, as you say, for myself. He said we must plump the whole community, which means everyone, everybody. And I would like to also inject the thought that Mama D. Love, took pictures with Mayor Harold Lee Washington back in the day. And also, Mama D. Love also reflected on Mayor Harold Lee Washington, his April 4th endorsement, of a reflection of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. There's a lot of history that we all participated in. The most important part is that even mentors like Pastor Marion Earl Thornton, as well as Dr. Webb Evans and Dr. Clay Evans, was, mentors that even taught Dr. King and made him welcome to Chicago. However, even before them was Pastor Thornton, Marion Earl Thornton. We're going to have to get back to the roots because he's from my hometown too, which is Hattiesburg, Mississippi. But Reverend Dr. Marion Earl Thornton actually started, the civil rights movement in Chicago, in terms of positive, progressive, and a professional, way. And we're going to have to insert a book, which, I'm working on that with you. And did you get my call that I left a message for you?
Well, I haven't had a chance to check all messages yet, but I'm certainly will get to that, because you are working on a book that is going to be a part of history, and because you are living history, you can best tell about it. We got a couple of comments here I want to share with our audience, and we've got our sister from the Higher Learning Network TV show, Miss Zelda Robinson, that says, "Shalom, always good to see and hear the good news, especially that of our elders' wisdom." Yes, absolutely. And she says that wisdom of Mama D is always on point. Yes, it is, most definitely. And she says that traditional thinking sometimes keeps us in a place we don't want to be longer than we want to be there. That is true. When we keep thinking the same old things, the same old ways, we cannot create any new results. And this is why we must seize the power to control our own minds. Now, just a few stories I want to share with you all. You know, as we connect with our global partners, with HWPL, Heavenly Culture, World Peace, Restoration of Light, our global partners in this movement toward peace. Now, while everybody else is talking about the war abroad, what are they doing? They are creating a peace education camp, uniting Palestinians and Israelis and working through the children. And we have it here on the international page on the on-air daily news. And you can see that at the big sign that they have the children holding up, we are one. So how powerful is that? This is the new thought that we are bringing to the world. And we are working with nations abroad who are bringing a message of unity all across the world, where young people are choosing to go a different way. So we also are looking at our brothers and sisters in Botswana and in Zimbabwe. And in our program entitled Voices of the Motherland by our dear sister educator, Michelle Renee, she went across the water to interview two very powerful educators, Tamika Holcomb, teaching in Botswana, Southern Africa, and Celelia Shirenge, teaching in Zimbabwe, Southern Africa. And they explained the challenges of literacy in their schools because, again, coming out of the idea that they must teach in English when they have their own native languages that children have mastered. So what we must do is not compare how someone speaks, how our children speak someone else's language as a sign of their intelligence, because we first have to respect and honor our own language. And this is what these educators are realizing. And so much of what we're doing abroad is connecting minds where people realize we've got to do things differently. As Zelda says, you end up doing things and staying where you shouldn't be a lot longer than you should be until you change the way you think. So this is critical for us to take the hint from our brothers and sisters abroad and realizing we have to think independently. We have to create what we need for ourselves and not keep worrying about whether other people approve of us, because we have the same power as anyone else to create what we need. So this is what we must do. So we're going to take one last break, and when we come back, we'll share a little more information and get a little bit more about your upcoming book, Minister Plump, and what are some of the things you've lived through in history that you'll be sharing with us in this book, because you are living history. And for those elders that are among us, they must share while they're still on the planet so they can teach and inspire our young people. So we'll be right back after this last break. We want you all to stick and stay. Don't stray away. We'll be back in a moment. Stay with us.
Great day. It's your girl Asada here to introduce a new female solution show called Asada Says. That's right. Every month we're going to talk about everything I am, from cryptocurrency and financial security to good health and parenting strategies. Come on and talk with me every Tuesday morning from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. And let's do that thing the way Asada says it should be done. See you then. Peace, right here on the Female Solution.
Welcome to Master Force with Mushim Suit. Join us each week on Thursdays at 7 a.m. Central, live on Facebook and YouTube on the Female Solution page. As we dive into powerful topics designed to assist you in mastering your life force, our conversations feature a diverse lineup of experts, all dedicated to your growth. Tune in weekly to discover new ways to elevate your spirit and raise your vibration. And remember, we are ascending.
Ascending. Yes, we are. And remember to come on back tomorrow on the Female Solution in the morning for Master Force with Mushem Sut. And she's got a story about the word Master Force. Our young people, they have this inappropriate language, and they kept saying that MF word. And she said to her, I think it's her grandson, can't you all think of another word to say with the initials MF as opposed to something degrading? And he thought of Master Force. And that's what we are. We are a master force. So that was powerful. I said, see, this is what I'm talking about. Create what you need. Change the language. Get the language right. Empower ourselves with language that uplifts us as opposed to degrading us. We have the power to do that. So this is what we must do. And so join Mushem Sut at 7 a.m. here on the Female Solution for Master Force. That is what we are. We are a master force in the universe. And one of the things we have done in our wonderful global connection, every first Saturday we have global talks with Zana, and she has taken us all across Africa as we're building an economic structure that is empowered by us independently without other people telling us what we can and can't do. And here I'm bringing up on the screen where we're introducing a global youth entrepreneur training program in Liberia. The Chief Tamba Taylor Business Incubator, a hub for economic growth, presented by J&P National Youth Empowerment Network, NFP, in partnership with the We Dream in Color Foundation, is soon to be launched in Liberia as a way to empower youth with entrepreneurial skills. So we had as a guest on the Female Solution Global show, it was the owner and principal consultant, Marianne Jordan, executive director, joint owner and principal consultant of J&P National Youth Empowerment Network. So this is some of the work that we're doing abroad, training youth, preparing them for global business. We are doing this, and we have partnerships with those who are making it happen. And then our own sister Cicely, with her powerful expression of independence, is reaching across the water to Burkina Faso, and her guest speaks of her experiences in Burkina Faso. We know all eyes are on Ibrahim Traoré, who's setting a bold new direction for that nation and leading Africa in its independent thought. And our first and third Sunday host, Cicely, had a chance to do an in-depth interview with a wonderful sister from Burkina Faso, where she's raising her children there and experiencing what it's like to be under a president who's not scared. He's not afraid. He is saying, look, we have our own economy. We're going to have our own financial system. We don't need you people in the West. Get out, France. Get out, US. Get out, England. We're going to control Africa's resources. So in this interview, Cicely McClendon, our host, who's formerly a resident in Ghana, West Africa, had an opportunity to get an inside view of the situation. Hosting her show From Seed to Systems, she spoke to Burkina Faso wife and mother Nazezia Sekouha. And this is a U.S. repatriate who is now raising her children in the country that many say is profoundly revolutionizing the entire continent. So that's another thing. Raising your children in the motherland. They're not going to have a slave mentality when they have been raised in Africa. So in these few minutes left, we've got Minister Plump on the line. Minister Plump, you have lived through some momentous things. I believe you're a Vietnam War veteran. Tell us about some of the historic times that you have lived through that you will be sharing with us in your upcoming book.
Okay, all right, we win. One of the most important things is I like to just inject that you're on target about do for self, and that came from the teachers of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and stopping the violence. We don't even need no guns. We don't need no knives to cut up anybody.
Absolutely.
So we done started a special youth program. However, it is for all people, for his parents, we have to have the permission to do that with the youth in order to save the children. And the children, like in the Nation of Islam, are geniuses. The children in the Black Star Project is geniuses. And even in the street organization, they are geniuses. And when someone don't know what to do with their bad children, you all can send them to Minister Plump.
Well, all right. But that's what they need. They need inspiration. Yeah, you're right. Yes. Do for self. And, a lot of people, whether they ever joined the Nation or not, they knew that there was something that the Nation was teaching that made those children different. They had a different kind of dignity about them, a different kind of confidence, respect. It was inside of them. Yes.
Let me share this before we get off. MF, Minister Farrakhan. M is also reflected to Master Farad. For brothers and sisters to help consider stopping the violence, robbing, stealing, and the killing. Children don't have to do that.
Absolutely
they
not.
Don't have to go downtown or go in the neighborhood and rampage, and put fear in the people when they can promote peace, love, unity, media. See, stop shooting each other for the children and learn to shoot the camera.
Ooh, I like that. Ooh, that sounds like that's a slogan. Yes. Learn to shoot a camera. Yes.
Sister Naimah, we need you, and I thank the Lord for you because you have opened up not only my mind, but also Mama D and many others, Sister Zelda Robinson. We help the homeless people, because we have grassroots organization.org from Sister Rashida Ali. And brothers and sisters can send even us a contribution to PrumpMusic277@gmail.com, or they can call me because we're continuing to promote the whole unity in the community, which means the whole world and everybody needs education. You see, information is the key to success, and education is the best.
Yes, it is. Well, we thank you so much. Thank you for joining us this evening on the On Air Daily News Hour. And thanks to all of you all who have joined us and continue to join us every day on the Female Solution. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Matter of fact, in these last minutes, let me pull up your page here so people can see you listed on the On Air Daily News team, because you are a part of the team, and we always want to make sure that our team members get a chance to share what they are doing that is making a difference in the world. And here we have the On Air Daily News team. So many brilliant minds that join us, whether they are reporters and covering politics, news, sports, and we've got our talk show hosts. And then we have the wonderful marketing team. Of course, we've got our columnists, and we've got those who are doing social media and marketing. And there is Minister Plum's face right there, smiling face we can see. And all of our photographers and videographers. Yes, we have a whole team, people. This is who we are. And you can definitely be one of those who are influencing the world. So thank you so much, Minister Plump. We appreciate you, and we appreciate all of you who are listening, watching, and responding to the positive news on the On Air Daily News every day. You can go to onair.dailynews.com to get the latest good news that's going to empower you and remind you that the power is in your hands. Well, until next time, we want you all to continue to shine your light. See you next time. We've come to the end of our show today. If you missed any broadcasts, go to our website for the audio and video archives at www.thefemalesolution.com. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to thank all of you who participated in today's discussions. And to our global family joining us from all around the world, we say thank you. To our family in China, xie xie. India, dhanyavad. Japan, arigato. Korea, kamsamnida. Russia, spasiba. Germany, danke. Poland, dziękuję. France, merci. Spain, gracias. Italy, grazie. Egypt, shukran. Ghana, madasi. Nigeria, eshe. South Africa, ngiyabonga. Senegal, jareh. Kenya, asante. Israel, toda. Pakistan, shukriya. Afghanistan, tashakur. Saudi Arabia and Palestine, shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you, and may peace be upon you and the mercy of God and God's blessings.